The NFL draft is over, and it's time to update the rookie rankings. These are my top 24 rookie rankings and tiers. And let's just get right into it. Ashton Genty lands where everybody thought he would land, and he is the 101. He's in tier 1. He's in a tier of his own, and he's going to be fantasy relevant. I mean, fantasy relevant. He's going to be more than fantasy relevant right off the bat. We're going to move down to tier 2. Omarion Hampton winding up with the Chargers in round 1, pick 22 overall. When you look at that backfield, it looks like Omarion Hampton with Najee Harris. We all know that Jim Harbaugh likes to run the football. So this seems like a match made in heaven. And obviously they target him in the first round. At the 103, we have Travis Hunter in tier 2. And to be honest with you, that trade that Cleveland made benefits Travis Hunter in fantasy, because if you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars depth chart at wide receiver, it's Brian Thomas Jr., then it's Travis Hunter, then Diami Brown, then Parker Washington, then Gabe Davis, and they didn't add to their tight end room. It's just Brenton Strange, and you have Trevor Lawrence throwing the ball instead of some random, Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco. Maybe they could provide moments, but Trevor Lawrence, despite what you might think of him, is a lot more stable for a Travis Hunter type. And while they have some wide receivers on the roster, I would wager to bet that Travis Hunter is going to play wide receiver more often than corner. They do need both. It's going to be interesting to see how they implement him, but I would wager that he's going to be playing a fair amount of offense. And with the 103, the safe play would be to go Cam Ward. But I don't necessarily like Cam Ward as a quarterback. He does go 101, and spoiler alert, he is my 104 in tier 3. Cam Ward would be the safe pick, and you let me know what you think in the comments. But Travis Hunter is the upside swing because he has all the upside in the world at the wide receiver position. Cam Ward, it's very simple. He winds up with the Titans here at the 101. He's going to be the guy. He's going to get starts right away, and he's going to provide fantasy points from day one, and he's a quarterback in a Superflex league. So there's value to that. Next up in tier 3 is Teteroa McMillan. Gets top 10 draft capital. I went back and forth between, putting him a little bit higher, because I do acknowledge that this is a really good landing spot for him. And because the Panthers don't really have much at wide receiver. I mean, they have Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker. They drafted Jimmy Horn late. But Bryce Young, not a super mobile wide receiver with Dave Canales. He gets his Mike Evans type, big-bodied, outside, physical wide receiver. Now, we're trusting the Panthers, which is a little scary, but it's a wide receiver with top 10 draft capital winding up in a really good spot. So I'm not going to question it too much. He's my 105. Quinshon Judkins to the Browns feels like a match made in heaven. And the Browns really needed running backs, and they took two of them, in Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins. And he's going to be the guy right away. I do have a concern that this offense isn't going to be nearly as good because of the quarterback play. It could be really bad, but guess what? They're going to have to run on the ball. They're going to have to run on the ball. They're going to have to run the ball, and they're going to have to lean on the running game. And Quinshon Judkins paired up with Jerome Ford, Dylan Sampson, all of a sudden you have a young, capable running back room with Judkins appearing to be the bell cow. So he's absolutely worth this pick. Moving on down, Trevion Henderson in the same tier. Now, I don't necessarily love the landing spot right away. These New England Patriots running backs, we know the history here with the coaching staff. Even though Belichick's not there anymore, Brady's not there anymore, obviously, you still have Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels. And our hope is that Trevion Henderson plays a receiving role and isn't usurped by Ramondre Stevenson too much or Antonio Gibson too much. The problem is that these running backs all have very similar skill sets. I would assume if they're picking Trevion Henderson in round 2 at the top of the round, that they're going to use him primarily, or at least 50% of the time. But I'm worried that they're going to mix in all of these guys and he's not going to be as fantasy relevant as we might like. I could be wrong, but I mean, I love Trevion Henderson. I really wish he would have lasted just one more pick, both because I'm a fan of the player and the team that would have been picking him, the Chicago Bears. But he winds up with the Patriots, so I'm a little bit lukewarm on that. You can let me know what you think of that in the comments, but nevertheless, he is my 107. And at the 108, last player in this tier, and I get it, he's a round 3 running back, but Caleb Johnson feels like the perfect Pittsburgh Steeler. And Pittsburgh's going to want to run the ball. And he's a good fit there, in my opinion. Jaylen Warren, pairs perfectly with them. I mean, he's their new Najee Harris. Let's not overthink this. I know the quarterback play. I mean, they're probably going to sign Aaron Rodgers. It's probably not going to be great at quarterback, but they're going to lean on the run. They have those 2 outside receivers in DK Metcalf and George Pickens to stretch the field to keep defenses honest. So I think Caleb Johnson's going to play that Najee Harris role starting day 1. And for that reason, he is my 108, last player in tier 3. Let's move to tier 4, and let's go to the tight end position. Colston Loveland gets drafted by the Bears. Now, I understand it's crowded in Chicago. There's a lot of weapons. Caleb Williams can't feed them all. But in a tight end premium league, a tight end getting picked top 10, I know Cole Kmet's there, which makes things complicated, at least a little bit complicated. But Loveland was the first pick of Ben Johnson. That's the first move that he made in the NFL draft, was targeting Colston Loveland. Caleb Williams is going to have so many easy completions over the middle because of Colston Loveland. I love the player. I love the pairing with the quarterback and the system. And if anything, if there's any player that I'm worried about, and we'll talk about him a little bit later, that would be Luther Burden, because he comes into a Rome Odunze-esque role off the bat, and he's probably going to play slot, those 2 outside receivers. I mean, this team is just chock full of weapons, and long term, I do like this for Colston Loveland. I do like the fit. Now we're going to throw up the other tight end in Tyler Warren. He gets drafted to the Colts, tier 4 for me. And again, the concern here with Tyler Warren is the quarterback play. What are we going to get from Anthony Richardson? Daniel Jones is there. We kind of know what we're getting from him if Anthony Richardson doesn't work out. But the good news is there's more of a target share for him than there is for, say, a Colston Loveland. But I don't think there's as good of a quarterback there. So that is what the ranking comes down to for me. We have to throw up R.J. Harvey, who gets drafted in the 2nd round by the Denver Broncos. And this is one of those landing spots that, regardless of who got it, we were going to get really excited, because all they have there is Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, who they took last year, and R.J. Harvey, who is the clear biggest investment on an offense with Sean Payton, Bo Nix. They have Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims. They draft Pat Bryant in the 3rd round. They signed Evan Ingram this year. This is an offense that's ready to roll, and you would think that they're going to feature R.J. Harvey as their lead back from day 1, and you could argue that maybe I should have R.J. Harvey a little bit higher. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. And the last player in round 1, we're moving down a tier. Emeka Egbuka. This is a strange landing spot. This was a strange pick on night 1 of the NFL draft, landing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This might be one of the best wide receiver, at least the deepest wide receiver. I mean, they'll compete with the Bears for deepest, best pass catchers. I know the Bears probably have him at the tight end position, but Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka. Currently, I mean, depending on where you look, Egbuka slots in as the primary slot wide receiver, even though that's where Chris Godwin played. I would imagine that they would probably play Emeka Egbuka outside to start. But, you have Jalen McMillan there, who played last year and was drafted in the 3rd round by this team. the previous season and played really well when Chris Godwin went out with an injury. So it's going to be interesting to see. Very convoluted. I would take the discount at the 112. Going to the 201. And again, not a landing spot that I really love. And I know some people do. But Matthew Golden going to the Green Bay Packers. Again, they have so many wide receivers there. And they took another one in round 3 in Savion Williams. Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks. Josh Jacobs can catch some passes. They have Tucker Kraft. They really don't like to throw the ball a ton. They like to lean on the running game. So again, unless you're telling me, and I suppose the investment in the first round should tell me that Matthew Golden is going to be the primary number 1 wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, I just don't trust Matt LaFleur to commit to a wide receiver as the alpha. I think he likes having a bunch of different guys that can do a lot of different things and spreading the ball around, which is great for the overall offense and for the NFL side of things. That's great. It gives teams multiple weapons to worry about. The problem with that for fantasy is it's very unpredictable. So unless you're in a best ball league, Matthew Golden, I don't think that this landing spot is as good as it's being made out to be, which is why he falls down a little bit for me. I have Jackson Dart up next in a Superflex league. Again, this is a pick for the future because I fully expect the Giants to dangle Jackson Dart as their savior. This is a classic move that franchises, or at least coaches, general managers who are on the chopping block can say, hey, we haven't had a chance to see this guy yet. They signed Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. Let the best man win there. Give Jackson Dart time to develop. Oh, this coaching staff, they're the one that drafted him. They're the one that believed in him. We haven't got a chance to see him play yet. We're developing this guy. So this is a classic move. And eventually down the road, you look down the road and you see that this quarterback is paired with Malik Neighbors. And Malik Neighbors can make a ton of people look good. He could make me look good at quarterback on a few throws, I'm sure. But this is going to be, this pick signifies that Jackson Dart is going to be the guy eventually. And you're just going to have to be patient. And I like the prospect quite a bit. Now, we're moving down to tier 6. And I don't have these numbered, so that's my bad. Player 15, Jaden Higgins. I really like this player, and I really like this fit. They just decided, the Texans just decided to take all the both the Iowa State wide receivers. And this signifies to me that Tank Dell's injury is a lot more concerning than maybe we initially thought. Jaden Higgins, I know John Mechie's there, but he's probably going to be the other outside receiver. So we're probably looking at Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, Christian Kirk, and then Jalen Noel behind him. And then whatever we get from Tank Dell this year, who knows. But Jaden Higgins attached to CJ Stroud, again, a quarterback with weapons now. And, they didn't really... they added a Arante Ursary in the draft, but outside of that, they didn't really add another offensive lineman. They signed Cam Robinson, Ed Ingram, Trent Brown to try to piecemeal that offensive line together. But, they gave CJ Stroud a ton of weapons here, and I would expect them to be throwing the ball a ton. So I like Jaden Higgins quite a bit. Luther Burden falls way down my rankings, and this I liked it. I liked it from a team perspective. It was very exciting to see the Bears take Luther Burden. I'm not gonna lie, but from a fantasy perspective, I think that Luther Burden took the biggest hit out of anybody that was ranked really highly amongst fantasy gamers, because just look at it, and it's great from an NFL perspective. It is. But Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet, you have DeAndre Swift out of the backfield who can catch passes. he's going to be the number 3 wide receiver. Oh, by the way, they signed Olamide Zaccheaus, and you might say, oh, Olamide Zaccheaus. He's a capable NFL wide receiver, and Luther Burden, Ben Johnson called him a stud on draft night. He's going to get his targets, but again, that is a convoluted situation there. And you could argue this next guy, Trey Harris, maybe I should have Trey Harris ranked ahead of him. I know he got drafted later, but when you look at the Chargers situation with the quarterback, Justin Herbert, proven guy, Trey Harris on the outside, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he's targeted more than Quentin Johnston this year. I mean, Quentin Johnston couldn't catch the ball last year. And it feels like a perfect match. Now, who knows? There's probably going to be a steep learning curve for the Chargers offense and Trey Harris. That's maybe my only concern. He's coming from an Ole Miss offense. I don't know how seamless it's going to be for him to go to the NFL. I don't know. But Trey Harris paired with Ladd McConkey, who they drafted last year, feels like the perfect match for me. And you could argue, and I don't think it's crazy to say, that Trey Harris maybe should be ranked ahead of Luther Burden. But again, let me know what you think in the comments. We're moving down to tier 7. Jalen Noel, picked in the 3rd round by the Texans. I put him ahead of some of the other wide receivers who were drafted earlier, and we'll talk about some of those guys a little bit later. But Jalen Noel, this is a bet on talent and situation. I think the situation's really good with the Texans, and I think he slots into that slot receiver role. And, maybe they mix and match him with Tank Dell a little bit later in the season. Who knows? But I really like the fit. Love the quarterback pairing with Jalen Noel. And I think CJ Stroud is a very, very happy man today with those 2 wide receivers. Now, Kyle Williams with the Patriots, I think it's a really good fit for them. And I really liked what the Patriots did on draft night. I thought that they made a ton of picks I wish the Bears would have made, especially Trevion Henderson, just completely sniping the Bears on Trevion Henderson because the Bears were looking to take him. But again, I digress. New England Patriots, they have Stephon Diggs, Drake May, and Demario Douglas and some of these other players, Hunter Henry. But you would figure that Kyle Williams has a solidified role right away in the offense. I know he was taken round 3, but I think he's going to get targeted. I haven't done my projections yet, but I think it's a pretty good situation for him. So the next player up on our list is Jack Bech. Jack Bech lands with the Raiders in round 2. And this is an interesting pairing because Jacoby Myers you would think would play the slot. Maybe Bech can play some slot too, but I think he can also play outside. He's a former tight end, and he could have a really good pathway to targets because you start to look at what they have. Obviously they have Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, but then it's Trey Tucker. They took Dante Thornton Jr. in round 4 and Jack Bech, and that's kind of it. Tommy Melton they took in round 6. Christian Wilkerson, that's kind of who they have on the roster right now. Jack Bech would figure to have a pretty good role right away. And then let's move to tier 8, Tyler Shuck. And Tyler Shuck, I do not understand this pick that the Saints made. I have really never really understood the Saints as a franchise, to be honest. No disrespect if you're a Saints fan, but they sign all these veterans. They bring in Brandon Cooks and Justin Reed. They sign, there's a couple other players that I could mention. Now Tyler Shuck appears to be the quarterback that they're going to be relying on because it's either him or Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener or I guess Ben DiNucci. That's the depth chart. So do you want to throw Tyler Shuck to the Wolves? Because I don't think he's going to serve. I don't think if you just throw him out there, I don't think he's going to be successful. I get it. Kellen Moore's there. They have a decent amount of weapons in New Orleans. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks they signed. But I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't think he's that good. Hence, he's down here. But, player, what is it? Player 21 overall. That's about when I feel comfortable taking him. Terrence Ferguson is up next. We're dipping into the tight end well, landing with the Rams. This is an amazing landing spot for a tight end. That was my tight end 4 coming into the process. Now he's my tight end 3. He slots right behind Tyler Higbee. Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua is there, or are there. But outside of that, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, it's not super deep at wide receiver. And I just think Terrence Ferguson has a really good pathway to opportunity in this offense. Bashul, Tootin, yes, we are dipping into day 3, picking Tootin ahead of some of these tight ends that we could throw up there, maybe ahead of Jalen Milroe. Not maybe, but ahead of Jalen Milroe in round 3. Tootin, from a fantasy perspective, and when you look at what the Jaguars have, he could absolutely beat out every one of those options and be the starter. Is it likely? Probably not. But he has all the upside from a fantasy perspective out of any running back in this class. I mean, if he gets the starting job, that's the angle I'm coming at this. So don't just say, oh, Seth Dewald said that Bashul Tootin has just as much upside as Ashton Genty. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if he gets the starting job, which is possible because, Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby are standing in his way. I guess they drafted LaQuint Allen in round 7 as well. This offense could be extremely, extremely good. And we know that Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter are going to open things up. So if Tootin gets a role right away, and again, new coaching staff, guys, I like the upside quite a bit, which is why he sneaks in here for me. And then the last player we're going to talk about here, Mason Taylor. I thought about throwing up maybe a Dylan Sampson, who's just outside of my top 24, Elijah Arroyo, Cam Scatabo, Jalen Milroe, all players just outside of my top 24. But Mason Taylor, I think it's a pretty good fit with the Jets. I know Justin Fields is Justin Fields. I'm very leery of Justin Fields outside of redraft. In Dynasty, for sure, I'm putting him on the trade block. In redraft, I suppose he's a good late round quarterback. I don't know where exactly he's going right now. But from a tight end perspective, Mason Taylor's probably going to be the starter. And then outside of Mason Taylor right now, you have Garrett Wilson, Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard, Tyler John. I mean, Malachi Corley. They drafted Arian Smith, but I mean, there's going to be some targets for him right away. So that's my top 24. Let me know what you think in the comments. Click like, click subscribe, and until next time, be good, everybody, and we will see you later.